Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every Monday night from TheRinger.com is Kevin O'Connor, a.k.a. Kevin O'Bomber, Kevin O'Concert, Kevin O'Climber, Kevin O'Conflict, Kevin O'Camera, Kevin O'Candyland, Kevin O'Blazarian, Kevin O'Sphere, Kevin!
Verno! How are you doing today, man? What's up?
I'm good. We have got Olympic basketball that is going on. The United States has kept on rolling. They have moved through their group, and now we get to the quarterfinals, and they're going to play against Brazil, and they will play the winner of Serbia and Australia. Serbia there because of in the words of the South Sudanese coach and GM, a travesty. There was a miscarriage of justice, they say, that took place with my Sudan team. I did not see this game, but evidently Royale Ivy said after the game, the free throws were 31-6. How do they take 31 free throws and we take 6? And they just kept on saying that basically they wanted Serbia there. Obviously, they've got possibly the greatest player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and that Greece got the last wild card in this. And so that will be obviously Giannis performing now, because it would have been South Sudan, except Greece got it because South Sudan lost. And Luol Deng, my beloved Luol Deng, called it, quote, deliberate. So I hate it for the South Sudanese. Still a Disney movie. They got their respect playing Team USA. They got their win against Puerto Rico, despite the Olympics playing the wrong national anthem. I mean, that's part of the movie too. Then they finally go and then they win, right? Where they're standing out there. I'm like, I had just told you last week, I was like, yo, this South Sudan team is like something from a Disney movie. And now they're getting everybody's respect and everybody's like, oh, I love this team. They play Puerto Rico. They get the wrong national anthem played for them, but they get their win, and then obviously gained respect from everybody that watched them playing against the team from the United States. And now we have the screw job that took place against them. But look, all in all, this is a team that we talked about last week on a mismatch, so I feel worthy of bringing them up. Great job by South Sudan. They certainly took a huge step for their country, and people now have an awareness of them. And as we said, I think we're going to look up maybe in 10, 20 years, and we're going to remember when Luol Deng started this whole thing. But a cool story nonetheless.
It was a interesting, we got a lot of emails as well about like that South Sudan story you told about Luol Deng. Like a ton of people hit up NBA Mailbag at gmail.com with questions for the Mismatch Mailbag. And a lot of people commented about that. I think there's a lot of interest in general about the Olympics. People asked about the German team.
Yeah,
we had some of our Denmarkian friends emailing about the Olympics. I mean, like a lot of people just are really invested, especially internationally, in the Olympics. And
sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like you said, USA is still rolling, but Germany wins gold on FIBA last year. They're still in it. They have a chance. Then
Canada beat the United States.
Yep.
Right.
They're facing France after Germany just beat France on Friday. So I mean, I guess we'll see. I think the USA will end up in the final. Like I think they'll beat Brazil. I think they'll beat Serbia or Australia. But that other side of the bracket: Germany, France, Canada. Those are three really great teams.
If it is an NBA collision course, it is USA and Canada. And as I mentioned, they lost to Canada. That was a different team. That was the Worlds last summer, right? Where it was for that bronze medal game. But nonetheless, the Canadians have the second most NBA players on their roster and certainly have a bona fide superstar playing an insanely important position in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, that still may not be enough for the greatest of all superstars, which is, of course, Dennis Schroeder, who turns into, I mean, I don't even know who you want to compare him to, but he's an all-time great when it comes to these international competitions.
He was so good against France. Him, and I know you saw I posted, and tagged you in it, but Franz Wagner had another 26-point banger.
Yep.
He was great alongside Schroeder. But yeah, Schroeder stepping up in the Olympics or in a FIBA competition every year is pretty remarkable to see with him. The one guy who hasn't right now is for Canada. Obviously, again, on Tuesday, France and Canada play. It was just Germany that faced France last week. But on the Canadian side, Jamal Murray has been terrible. On Canada, Jamal Murray, really for the past year, going back to his time with the Nuggets, he has really been the one concerning main factor for the Nuggets. And now for Canada, it's the same thing. In each game, he has 8 points, 5 points, 4 points. And in total, he's shooting from the field 6 of 18. So for a year now, Jamal Murray has not looked like quite the same guy aside from his game winners in the first round. Other than that, he has not looked like anywhere near the guy that helped lead the Nuggets to a championship.
And their title hopes hang upon that duo.
Yes, exactly.
That's what's made them the most devastating team to have to deal with in crunch time over the last couple of years.
Just like for Canada, they need Jamal Murray to be an elite backcourt partner for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yep. It is odd that he has performed at such a low level in this deal. Now, I would have said, in terms of France, who you talked about, Wemby deeply apologetic for his play. He really takes everything just so intensely seriously, right?
I love it.
But he did not play well. He was upset about it. They were getting booed at halftime because they're down so bad. They got a lot of booing done in Paris. In between booing their own team and booing Embiid every time he's out on the court, and him getting to play and shoot so much. In that last game against Puerto Rico, because they were small, they were full-throated boos to where he turned into Embiid the wrestler. And he kind of looks like a wrestler these days too. But he, egging him on, come on. But yeah, that France thing was a little disconcerting because they're playing at home. So you figure this is their time to shine, especially given their performance the last time around. But Germany just really took it to him. Yeah, the only chance they would have had was to change into Cavs jerseys at halftime and tell Franz it's Game 7. Other than that, it was
cheap
just going to be tough.
That's cheap.
What?
That's cheap.
Sorry.
That's cheap. I'm not going to respond to that.
Or they could have benched Rudy Gobert before halftime. I mean, they let it get all the way to halftime before they pulled him off the court.
Funny guy. It
was kind of crazy to me that you were focusing so much on Franz. Thought that was odd. I mean, they have friggin' French Bill Russell had to get pulled again in a big game. That was crazy.
Yep.
Germany and Greece. Giannis doesn't have a slew of guys with him. He's kind of, it's kind of interesting. We'll see how much Giannis could elevate, how much Jokic can elevate, because they certainly don't have the pieces all the way around. No. Brazil, I mean, they don't have NBA guys on their team. They've got some former NBA guys on their team, but certainly you would not think have enough to deal with the United States. But that France-Canada game, really big. I mean, Serbia, Australia is great as well. But certainly I would think going into it that Germany should have a real inside track and the United States should have a real inside track. The other two, France, Canada is good, and Serbia, Australia is good as well.
What's our plan this week for the pod? Are we going to record after the games on Thursday? I think we should. Yeah. Why not record after Thursday in both semifinal games?
Yeah, those will be great too.
Put it out right away. I think
and we'll be headed towards. How much Olympics have you watched outside of basketball? Have you watched any of the other?
0.
None.
Nothing.
You don't care about Noah Lyles. You don't care about Simone Biles. No. You don't care about none of it.
None of it. I'll just watch the highlights on social media.
Did you at least see the guy that lost the pole vault because he had a big wiener?
Because of his wiener, yeah.
So you saw that. And you saw the Turkish John Wick, right?
Yeah, I saw the I saw everything I need to see on social media.
You see it on the social media, right? the United States rugby women's player that's like Marshawn Lynch that trucks everybody.
I see all of it on social media. I saw even like the clip of like Suni Lee face planted in her warm up, practicing, and then she nailed it in her routine and got, I don't know, a top 3 finish, gold, silver, I don't know.
So you have an awareness of.
Yes, I just don't watch any of it live, but I see it all on social media. It's all fun and interesting, but I'm not going out of my way to watch it live, which is probably the way it is for like a casual basketball fan who catches the highlights on, Instagram and TikTok and all that. That's probably the way I feel about the Olympics. It's like, I'll see what I need to see on social media, but I'm not sitting down in front of the TV or like I know they have it like at AMC movie theaters. I noticed they have like the Olympics. You can buy a ticket for like 4 hours and sit in the theater, which must be pretty sick. I noticed you can do that, but I'm not doing that type of stuff.
I was having a discussion with my buddies today. Do you view Team USA so one of my buddies, he didn't want Noah Lyles to win the 100 meters.
Yeah.
Because he finds him to be super annoying and he didn't like the NBA comments. Like Noah Lyles famously is the one that said they call themselves world champions. World champions of what? They play in the United States. Like he was talking about NBA teams, right?
A lot of people are rooting against him.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, and then even the people that are rooting against him, like as soon as he wins, then they just ride the wave, like, yeah, USA, USA. And I've wondered if I have been forced as a sports fan to root for all manner of people that I would not root for under any other circumstance, but because they were on my team. And I wondered if it doesn't matter who is wearing USA. Will you root for them no matter what?
Who, me?
Yeah, would you?
I mean, I root for great competition.
But do you want the United States to win?
No, I don't care. I don't really. I just root for. I don't really feel that attachment in that way. Like with the basketball team, especially, the USA is the juggernaut favorite. They should steamroll opponents. I root for good competitive games. Like Devin Booker said earlier today, how he thinks it's harder to win an NBA championship than it is to win a gold medal. I think that's true for Team USA. It is way harder to win the NBA finals than it is to win a gold medal, but it is not true for every other team. Every other team, it's far harder to win gold because of the level of competition, because of the stakes, because of the pressure, and because of the juggernaut that is Team USA that you actually need to get through and beat. So, I mean, I in that regard, I mean, I just root for fun, high-level competition from a pure love of sport, regardless of, who ends up getting most gold medals, silver medals, bronze medals.
If Team USA plays against France, who will you root for?
France. How could I not? I'm not even
Kevin O. Traitor.
How could I not root for Rudy Gobert?
Unbelievable. You won't even root for our own country. I know. Rudy, Frank, and Wemby.
And how could I not root for them?
Unbelievable.
I mean, but the truth is I'm not
Kevin O. Communist.
The truth is I'm not even rooting for either of the teams. I'm rooting for a classic. I'm rooting for a game to go down to the wire. Where the crowd's going crazy. I asked you who you would want to win. Would you want the United States to win the gold medal or France to win the gold medal? If they played, but I'm not
despicable.
really.
You're despicable.
But I'm not really rooting for anybody, though. I'm just rooting for an amazing game. I'm rooting for a classic that they want to make a documentary about that we watched decades from
Nobody's watching a documentary of France beating the United States. Enough.
No, or it could be USA beating France. It could be a documentary about, the most dominant Olympic team and how the game went down to the wire against France.
This is shameful.
It could be a documentary about the start of a dominant French team 4 years from now, Victor at another level. Like, I don't know what the documentary is, but I'm just rooting for great competition.
People wonder why things are the way they are. No love of country. No love of country. Unbelievable.
I feel great love for my country.
It doesn't sound like it.
I love America.
You're friggin' baguette.
I think we live in the greatest country in the world. I can feel love for country, but also not directly care about it with sport competition as much.
It's fine. You're a traitor. No big whoop. All right. We asked for mailbag questions throughout the summer. You told me we got a lot of them, and we got a lot of good ones, which, of course, we went through a sampling of them last week, and there were some very good ones. So what do we got for this week?
We got a lot of good ones. Let's start off with Patrick. Patrick said, "That's true. That might be true. That's ridiculous."
That's trademark, by the way.
Yes, it is. So, Patrick, you got to pay a fee to Chris Vernon and the Mismatch, and probably Ringer and Spotify, too.
At least $5.
Yes, yes. The right thing for the Golden State Warriors to do is to trade Stephen Curry for all
right, that's ridiculous.
Okay,
no, Brian, I don't even need to hear the rest.
Brian, a separate emailer, said, since the West is so deep next season, since the Warriors could be a team on the outside looking in of the playoffs, is it actually for the best for them to go into tank mode for the loaded 2025 and 2026 draft? So we had two emailers bring up the same exact topic. So, but you say that's ridiculous to Patrick's question about it.
Yes, I would not trade Steph Curry.
Okay. Okay. I agree that's ridiculous. I think you got to do what you can to try to win with Steph still playing at the level that he is for the 2024-25 season. But let's say the Grizzlies make the playoffs. Let's say the Spurs make the play-in. Like, let's just say these teams take a leap. Let's say the Rockets move up the standings and, the Kings move back into the playoffs. That's 3-4 teams that could be knocking out 3 or 4 teams. The Warriors could end up being one of those teams. Next summer, if the Warriors miss the playoffs, Stephen Curry has already said, I don't want to be losing. I still want to be competing. I do wonder if maybe a year from now, if that all were to happen, that does become more of a realistic conversation for the Golden State Warriors. But it's ridiculous today. I
would try to get me a third piece. You still, look, we still don't have any conclusion to the Kuminga deal.
No. Okay. But I don't want to pay Kuminga.
Okay, that's fine. But that's a hell of a piece to be able to put in a deal to get somebody good.
I don't know, but who does want to pay Kuminga? That's the big question. Know. Who does want to pay him?
Right. And I think remember when the whole stuff came up about Markkanen, and Markkanen's obviously not signing his deal until next week, but and doesn't want to be traded, and evidently they're going to stick with him. So the story goes. You never know. But what I'm saying is you do have some young, good players and some big contracts that you could pair along with it. I would be trying to build with Steph Curry and Draymond Green and for the next year. And again, we can revisit this in a year.
Yeah, I think
this season goes poorly, if you don't have a chance, but I would try to package some of those guys that I've got, who I do think are some pretty promising young players. I still like Kuminga in the right spot. I like Moody in the right spot. You've got the Wiggins contract you could do something with. You've got some maneuverability to be able to go get somebody, and a team that adds another player to go along with those guys for another run. That would be my mode of operation. I'd be trying to find a third guy to go along with Steph and Draymond for one more go, and we'll see what we can do.
Well, for what it's worth, the Warriors are plus 4,500 for the NBA Finals championship next year on FanDuel. That's tied with the Pelicans for the 13th highest odds. There are currently 8 teams at plus 100,000. Blazers, Pistons, Bulls, Hornets, Raptors, Wizards, Nets, Jazz. So those are the teams that are considered best probability of having the worst record. We have a question from somebody who wanted to be called Whoop-de-damn-do. He asked, who has the best shot at having the worst record? And those teams were, again, Blazers, Pistons, Bulls, Hornets, Raptors, Wizards, Nets, Jazz. And for what it's worth, Whoop-de-damn-do thinks it'll be the Nets that will have the worst record in a loaded draft class.
I mean, it's them or the Wizards.
I think it's got to be the
They're
Nets
both
or the Wizards.
it's going to be
those
going to be absolutely embarrassing.
Those odds should be more like plus 200,000. Not like they shouldn't be tied with some of those other teams, I don't think.
No. There will be an effort made by some of those others.
Yes, and they'll, for sure.
There will, and with the smoothing of the lottery odds, it is not as essential that you have the absolute worst record. Just ask the Pistons, who somehow still never get the number one pick, though they tank out. And so I would say those teams, though, like they're not going to be competitive. They're not going to be competitive. They don't have good players, and I do think that they want to have the maximum amount of
yes.
you can never underestimate the heart of a tanking champion.
I know.
And those two, there's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
God forbid when they play each other. I mean, somebody may just forfeit.
Gonna be.
I saw the Wizards last year, and I remember coming on the pod and saying, this is like towards the end of the year, and I remember coming on the pod and saying, A, that team didn't even run plays. I've seen more structure at a Lifetime Fitness. And B, there is no doubt in my mind that if you would have walked over to that bench and said, guys, we don't have to play this game tonight, you can just forfeit, that every one of them would have gone back in, packed their stuff, and jumped on the plane. They didn't even have any interest in competing. They were. It was a mockery of the game. So both those teams stink, and they want to stink, and it'll be those two. How can I know who's going to lose more? Whoever wants to, I guess. Whoever's more egregious. And I hope neither of them get the first pick in the draft.
All right. Jared, of the 10 remaining teams left without an NBA championship, which team do you think will be the next of those to win it? And which team do you think will take the longest to never win a title? Those 10 teams: Suns, Timberwolves, Nets, Pacers, Hornets, Pelicans, Jazz, Magic, Clippers, and your Memphis Grizzlies. Which team is next, and which team will take the longest or just never win a championship at all? Who's next?
You didn't say Thunder, did you?
Did I not say Thunder? I guess technically.
Oh, stop.
But
no.
So let's include the Thunder then. We'll include the Thunder, as I think we should, because when the Sonics come back from expansion, I think the Sonics should get their history, right? Their own history.
Yes.
So we'll include 11 teams. We'll include the 11th being the Thunder. That's fair.
So I think your best chances are Minnesota. It would have to be this year.
Yes.
Given their timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I would say those three West teams, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and Memphis, are the ones with the best chance in the next.
Well, what about Phoenix?
4 years.
How about Phoenix, though? Why not Phoenix? Is that same conversation?
It would just have to happen so fast.
It would have to be this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've had enough reps.
Well, I mean, they'll get reps this year. They're going to get reps. I got it,
but I mean, how many reps do they get even this year? I mean, the level of health is just. I mean, they got demolished by Minnesota.
I know.
Demolished. It wasn't even like.
Despite crushing them during the regular season.
Yeah, not like where I think Tyus Jones could have been the difference. No. And they had their guys for that.
Mm-hmm.
They had their guys.
Yeah.
And they
weren't even fair.
It weren't even close.
That's fair. And Minnesota could get better depending on what happens with their young guys. Leonard Miller, Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, like those guys. And Anthony Edwards, too, is still a young guy. McDaniels is still young.
And here's the deal. It has always been, so regarding the conversation we just had, it's always been my point of view. You've got to have one of the best players in the entire league. Okay? And Morant's already made All-NBA as a young player. Gilgeous-Alexander has been first-team All-NBA. Anthony Edwards is going to be an All-NBA player. And so I'm just picking the guys who I think these are under 24s All-NBA guys already.
So if it's an East team, that might mean it's the Orlando Magic.
Correct.
Because you're betting on Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and an elite defense continuing to get better in the years to come. Like that would be the Eastern Conference bet.
I've told you, I think Paolo can be one of the top 10 players in the league.
Yes, and I've told you Franz Wagner could be one of the 20 best, so they could have two top 20 players.
So I mean, I'm just betting on. I'm one of those that bets on the talent, and it's like, okay, those teams of the ones that you've talked about, those ones have players that you could foresee being first team All NBA players
for sure,
and that gives you a chance. I don't think you have a chance unless you have a player that can be first team All NBA.
And real quick, the team, totally agree. And real quick, the team least likely, or will take the longest. It's the Clippers, right?
Yes,
I would agree. If they're not going to do it with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George,
given their situation
James Harden,
right now too, because I mean, it's a long road back. To competitive from
the argument in favor of them is the fact that Steve Ballmer is one of the richest men in the world and will spend anything. But they made all the
rules to make that
exactly
less significant.
100%.
It used to be the best deal ever if you had somebody that could massively overspend.
Totally agree, and I don't think that's as much of a argument in their favor as maybe it was before this current CBA. With all that said about the Magic, we did have an emailer, Tom from Australia, who expressed some concerns about the state of the Magic. He is a Magic fan. He said, I'm not sure if you've noticed Paolo Banchero's sleeve tattoo on his right arm before, but it's dedicated to his hometown of Seattle. He literally has the Space Needle tattooed on his arm. On a scale of 1 to 10, once Adam Silver announces expansion teams, assuming Las Vegas and Seattle, how nervous should Tom from Australia be as a Magic fan that Paolo could someday leave Orlando for Seattle?
I would not be nervous about that. I mean, once you become an All NBA performer, which I do believe he will, his next contract's going to be absolutely absurd.
Oh, it's going to be nuts. $60 million annually, whatever it is at that time.
and people like playing in Orlando. And as long as you could
put state taxes in Florida,
and as long as you could put a competitive team around him, just because a guy has you need to worry about him trying to go swan song at the end of his career, or maybe after you've had him for 8 years. But I mean, with all these guys, you're seeing it now. How many guys are leaving where they are? How many? I'm talking about the guys that are making crazy money.
Not many.
Hell, all we talked about last year was how the scuttlebutt was. Yeah, everybody knows Donovan Mitchell's not going to be there. Even Donovan Mitchell re-signed in Cleveland.
And he probably would have re-signed in Utah if he were never traded.
So, and he has no connection to Cleveland. And is a huge Mets fan, as we know. Right? And everybody always said, oh, he's going to go to Brooklyn. Oh, he's going to go to the Knicks. Oh, that's where he's going to maybe go out to L.A. or he's going to go where he re-signed in Cleveland, bro. As soon as that as soon as that contract comes and it's time to put your name on the dotted line, really, I just think don't worry. Don't worry. You're not even to year 3 of this guy.
He was drafted in 2022. It wasn't that long ago. He's still on his rookie scale deal. It's not something to worry about until, like you said, after 7 or 8 years, towards the end of his second contract with the Magic. Then maybe you start to worry a little bit. But even at that point, the Sonics might suck at that time. And it might not even be a place that he would want to go yet, because just because it's home doesn't mean that you necessarily want to go back there necessarily. You can have fond feelings for where you're from and love where you're from and appreciate where you're from, but not want to go there. And that's what the sleeve tattoo might just be, is a remembrance of what shaped him into the person that he's become.
We're doing this off the top of, I'm doing this off the top of my head. And so, at the risk of everybody screaming at their iPhone or their Bluetooth or whatever they may speaker, whatever they may be listening to, just off the top of my head, the great player, not like a traded guy, right? But the great player that wasn't with his first team at least 8 years. I mean, because even Trae Young, we're going to be getting there, it feels like.
And the Trae Young aspect is good to bring up, Chris, because it goes both ways. Guys are re-signing because the money is so significant. And B, teams are reluctant to trade for players because the money is so significant. One of the reasons why Trae Young wasn't traded this year is because it's I don't know who wants to pay that money. that's one of the issues Atlanta had when it
And
comes
the deal
to
is
listening.
like the saying, and I'm not talking about like trading them, right? Like Ben Simmons ended up getting traded, or like you didn't even want him anymore.
And he doesn't even count for the qualification of what you're talking about with
We're
one of the
talking
great
about
players.
I want out. Like not even Zion has done the I want out. And he was
people
the one everybody brought up.
Before the draft.
Right. And even he has got that second contract with his team.
That's true.
I mean, it's just very, very rare. I think we're kind of past the era of being terrified your guy's going to leave you.
Yeah.
Because and again, there might be somebody I'm just forgetting. I'm not talking about trades, because Halliburton got traded as a great player, young in his career. Gilgeous-Alexander traded young in his career.
Those are different. That's completely different.
I'm talking about I was there.
I want out. Get me out of here.
Yeah, it didn't go the way I wanted, and I'm not signing the second contract. Like, everybody said that if anyone's ever going to do that, it's going to be Zion.
Mm-hmm.
That was the
didn't happen.
And it didn't happen with him. And so I don't think, I mean, I feel like when you get these guys, you get them for 8 years. You get them for 8 years.
All right. So, I mean, I think with that said,
call me in 7 years and I'll tell you if you should worry about Paolo.
I agree. So we do have an expansion question. We got a very nice message from Philly from Seattle. Thanks, Phil, for listening. He found our pod at a time where he missed talking NBA. And we helped fill that void, he said. So Philly from Seattle said, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we were used to expansion teams being trash for years before finding the winning mix of players. But in the NHL in recent years, we've seen teams like Las Vegas and Seattle find early success. How would you guys alter the expansion process so that the next oncoming teams, likely the Sonics and Vegas, can be competitive early on like they are for the NHL? Higher draft picks, modified rules for expansion draft, bonus cap room. What do you guys think?
Okay. So the first thing I would say is that the NBA has never been more prepared for the amount of players it takes for expansion. If you go back and look, and when Philly grew up, if you go back and look, those teams are pathetic. There wasn't enough guys to warrant having the teams. And now I think there's a plethora of good players. There are a lot of NBA level players not in the NBA. You see this when you go down to the G League. You can see this with guys that are playing overseas, but more importantly, you can see this now deeper in rosters. And I think given how careful teams are going to have to be about what they spend, and we've talked about the economics of the NBA, where you have the massive contracts and then you have the small contracts and there's not as much in the middle. I think in terms of your protected guys, and I believe the last time around you could protect up to 8 guys.
Up to 8, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Way deeper than it was in 2004 when the
you are going to be able to put together 2 good rosters out of unprotected guys in the NBA in a way where you could not put together good rosters with unprotected guys and unrestricted free agents years ago. So you give them some high draft picks, you give them the same parameters, and in the end, I think they will be able to be competitive or field teams immediately. But I also don't think that they should be given such advantages that they should be able to field better teams than the ones that are already there. There should be some growing pains with an expansion franchise. You're getting a team. You don't get to just be good immediately. Like, that's not the way it works. But I also don't think there's an in-between here, right? You don't get to be really good immediately. And I don't think you can do it like hockey, like they did with Vegas or whatever. So I don't think you're going to be like really good immediately, but I also don't think you're going to be destructively terrible.
Is it possible though? I mean, like I don't know a lot about hockey, but from what I understand, like the NHL has similar depth right now that NBA has, right? So the Kraken and the Knights were allowed to get like better quality players because some teams were letting go of salaries. Some guys had to let go of some younger guys. You could see a similar thing happen with the NBA. You're more of a hockey guy than me. Is there anything else? Like, why were those teams able to get good so fast?
Oh, I don't know enough about the details of how they were able to get so good so fast, except for, look, there very well may be an unrestricted or unprotected star level player that could come along when it comes to it, that might be available to one of
with
these
the salary
teams.
cap. Like a team could sign a free agent, of course.
It is possible. That being said, we know, I think this is one of those deals where you could have a expansion draft and get yourself 8 to 10 good players on your team. But in terms of the highest level players, which is what name any really good team, and they've got at least one, most of the time 2 all-star caliber players. If they're not all-stars, all-star caliber. Like, you look up and down the Western Conference, and you're going to find that virtually everybody has that. And so that's going to be the trick in the NBA. We know that one player has such a profound effect in a way that one player can't even have that level of effect in hockey. One player cannot have the same effect in hockey that they have in basketball. Yeah. And so, and like the night in, night out performer in basketball, like the high level player, that's what's hard to attain in the expansion draft.
Totally. Whereas in the NBA, like, let's just say the NBA expands for the 27-28 season. Let's just say that's when it happens. So that would mean the 2027 NBA draft and free agent class has these players, these 2 teams signing players, upcoming free agents and all that. Like, Giannis can be a free agent that year. AD can be a free agent. Embiid, Mitchell will only be 30 at that time. Trae Young, 29 years old. Luka, 28 years old. Just some names off of, that I'm seeing off of a 2027 list. To the point, like, that we're getting at, maybe one of those guys would want to go to an expansion team. I don't think so. I think those guys would want to go to a championship team, but who knows? That's the argument for those teams getting good really fast. Any other thoughts on that, Chris? Or
whoever LeBron recruits to come to Vegas to play for his team.
Of course. Yeah. Maybe
more
Luka.
than likely his son.
Yeah. For a max. Yes. From this guy signed his name. Pooping at work.
Come on. It's also a ridiculous thing to do.
But he sent a very nice email about you, Chris. He said, I've always been impressed with Verno. I've always
Thanks. The complimentary email comes from pooping at work. Amazing. That is a story of my freaking career.
The funny thing is that under pooping at work, it said sent from my iPhone. I believe it. Anyway, he said, I've always been impressed with Verno's vocabulary and figures of speech, such as Luka is perpetually aggrieved, no shrinking violets, etc. Do you read much, Verno? If so, what book do you think I should read next?
I do not read as much as I wish I read.
I mean, you're a dad. You're a busy guy. You got a lot going on. You host shows.
Yeah.
You're on TV. You golf. You're a busy man.
Well, you know what I've been doing recently?
What's that?
Oh, I've started to understand you a lot better.
You're watching The Bachelorette?
No. God,
okay.
No.
Okay.
I became an online gamer.
Oh, yeah? What are you playing? You playing
college
with your son?
Football. It got me out of It got me out of retirement.
Are you talking trash on mic? Are you talking trash with your opponents?
Let me tell you something, Kevin. Here's what's happened to me.
Nothing better.
I have a headset, and I don't have I don't even plug it in.
Oh,
but on a PlayStation 5, there is a speaker on the controller.
I think you talk great trash.
The people I play against, it's made me understand young people. It's made me understand internet culture. How people talk so crazy to strangers they've never met. So this is going to make me sound old. When I was a kid, if you played video games against your buddies, You did it in person, right? You played at each other's houses against each other. There was no manner of which you could play online against each other. And if you talk to each other the way people talk to each other, it would have been fist fights. But these people live in a world where they talk crazy like this to complete strangers with no repercussions. So of course they act like that on the internet because they've lived their whole lives growing up being able to talk to people they don't know in some kind of crazy way. Like I play and I don't even, how about this? This is how crazy the online gaming community is. There are guys, as I'm playing that game, my mic is on mute. So I can just hear it through my controller. And guys will like catch a bomb or something. By the way, I'm terrible at the game. So I, of course, have to take it. But I mean, they'll complete a bomb. They'll be like, yeah, bitch, you like that shit? And I'll be like, what? It's coming through my controller. I'll be like, what? I'm like,
that would totally be me. We should play. I'd love to talk shit to you.
Oh, I'm awful. Anyways, I do read. I'm trying to look over at my bookcase to tell you. Honestly, I read a lot of like lately it's either been like it's like self-help books. What's the one I just started on a flight? I just started one that had been recommended, and Unreasonable Hospitality. There you go.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah, it's about a guy who started a restaurant in New York.
The remarkable power of giving people more than they expect.
Yeah, and
That's
decided that customer service was and I'll tell you the other. So I started that one. I have not, like, unfortunately, I started on a flight and then I just sat it down. And since I've been home, I haven't
started playing video games. Yeah.
Yes, I started playing video games. The other thing, and I hate to, I mean, I don't care. Maybe they'll promote us. I have this app, which someone recommended to me because I don't have as much time to read as I wanted to. Have you ever heard of Headspace?
Yeah, I think I have. But
it's
is it like a meditation app or whatever?
No, but it's got this app. I believe that's what it's called. I think that's the one I use. No, Headway. I'm sorry, Headway. Headspace is a self-help app. You're right about that. I have that as well. Headway is it's got every book like you can imagine, and a lot of like self-help books and a lot of whatever. But it's all basically Cliff Notes audio versions. So it's all the basic principles, or it's
like lazy reading.
Yeah. So you could read, you could get like, say the seven habits of highly effective people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, name the book about whether it's about finance, whether it's about self-help, whether it's about, in my case, I listened to a bunch about procrastination and how to like be better about that. And so, those books are condensed, and so maybe I just hear big words a lot.
Sounds like you're feeding into
words that people don't normally say, I guess.
It sounds to me like you're feeding into this, like a root of the procrastination by just listening to like the bullet points of a book.
Right. Oh, I should just sit down and read the book. I agree.
Yeah, I know.
No, I agree.
I want to read. It came out, I think, 3 years ago now. I've had it on my desk for about a year now. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. I've been meaning to read that, and I'm going to actually make it happen this summer. I've been meaning to read that one for a long time.
Pretty much only read sports, self-help, golf books. I've been reading John Sherman. He's a golf writer. I've been reading his new book, Fundamentals book. I liked, that kind of stuff, like Atomic Habits, stuff like that. I like
Atomic Habits is great. I love the stuff. Habit stacking, technique in there. A couple quick hitters.
Just stuff that I feel like might make me a better person.
Yes. A couple quick hitters from Will. just something to address from last week. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Last episode, you talked about traveling overseas to Montreal. Which seas did you travel over? We meant to say out of the country. We just mixed up. It's a simple little mistake. From Joshua, if you could choose one artist or band to see at the Sphere in Vegas, who would it be? For me, that would be Tame Impala. I just think they would take full advantage of the interior screen with the graphics and make it the most satisfying live experience ever. So Tame Impala would be my answer for, the living band, the currently touring band that I'd want to see most.
Well, it's hard because I'm trying to think of concerts that I've been to that would have been beyond spectacular in there.
Still got to go to a show there. You should come out for the Eagles.
I mean, I went to like one of the Beyonce big concerts.
That'd be wild.
And I could see that being like Beyonce and Jay-Z, like if they did it together. I went to the floating stage one, the Kanye floating stage one.
Can I just ask a question about that? It's just a floating stage.
It was awesome.
But wasn't it the energy of the crowd that almost made it?
For sure, but it was because it was unlike any place I had been.
With a floating stage.
Yes.
But was there like crazy lights and lasers, or was it just the floating? Okay, there was too. Okay.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I went to Bridgestone Arena, which is in Nashville, where the Nashville Predators play. So if you can imagine, like, where the hockey rink would be, and like under the hockey rink, it's just concrete, right? But before they lay down the ice. So all the ice, obviously the boards and everything, that was all taken down. And then you still have the seating around. And then we were on that floor where the ice would have been. Okay. So like, it's just concrete floor, but that whole like bottom floor, that GA section, and then the stage is like going over us and the lights are coming down and he's standing on the top of the damn thing. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I wish I got to see that tour.
It was unbelievable. That was Life of Pablo tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So
that was really Kanye's last.
He put on a hell of a show there for sure.
That was his real great last album, right? Life of Pablo? Or was there one since then? I forget.
I liked Donda.
You did?
I liked it.
It's okay.
I liked it. I would say who else?
What could the answer actually be? Kanye? Like Kanye's
Maybe.
Back? That type of thing? Like Kanye, best of Kanye?
I'm trying to think who else is like a big mega star that might actually make use of it. Because like there's a lot of big mega stars that I don't think would make, like I love Ed Sheeran, but I don't think he'd make best use of it.
Ed Sheeran, I saw him open for John Mayer earlier last year at the Wiltern, a small venue in LA, and it was just him and his guitar, and it was magnificent. Like that's all.
But that's how you need to see. You don't need to see him in the Sphere.
Exactly.
Bruno Mars, that might be cool.
That'd be a good residency.
I think he's like a super entertainer.
Yeah. I think Bruno would be good.
I was trying to think of like the big ones. Obviously, my daughter would love to go see Taylor Swift. She ain't playing the Sphere. She's playing friggin' stadiums. Do you know I looked up tickets, and the cheapest ticket for like when she's back in the States,
$3,000.
Yeah, dude, it was going to be over $2,000 a piece.
Isn't that something else?
In a stadium.
I know.
I'm like, yo, Haley, you ain't seeing Taylor Swift, dog. We can watch that. We can watch it on Disney Plus again if you want. You better wait till these things calm down a little bit. Ain't no way.
I don't know.
$2,000?
I don't know when it is going to calm down.
A piece?
Especially for Eras Tour. The show is amazing. Spectacular. It really is.
What'd you pay?
$0.
What? How? You got ways.
We'll talk off the pod. $0.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Very fortunate, but it was a religious experience. I was like
you dressed up like security.
I was, yeah, I snuck in, but I was like in the nosebleeds, which is fine. It was like it almost didn't matter where you were sitting because of the crowd. But I remember my row was like all moms and like teenage daughters, and my entire section was all women. I don't think there was a single dude in my entire section except for me, which is the most funny thing about it. Like that crowd is like 80% woman.
I'd say, so I'm trying to think of, when you talk about the Sphere, I'm trying to think of it through the prism of all the extras.
I think Beyonce's a good answer. Beyonce, Jay-Z. Beyonce, Jay-Z. They could each get a set.
Yes.
40 minutes each and then 40 minutes together. And it would be epic. I think that's
a lot
a really
of people
good one.
I'd like to see, but I don't think would make the best use of the Sphere.
I totally agree. Right? And plus with both of them, Jay-Z and Beyonce, on any night, they could have a feature. Somebody could come in on a particular night and there could be a feature. And that would, it's just like right now with Dead & Company at Sphere, every night's a different set list. Every single night. There's people like Deadheads who have been to like 20 shows, which is unfathomable to spend all that time in Vegas when you don't actually live there, but there have been, because every night there's a different set list. Beyonce and Jay-Z have enough of a discography that they could do something like that. So I hope, I mean, like they get the Eagles coming next.
Yeah, I'll give her credit because I went to her years ago.
Really?
I went and saw her arena tour, and I mean, it's not like I drive around listening to Beyonce, okay?
But the show is great.
I knew every song, Kevin. That's when I'm like, okay, this is different. I mean, how do I know every single song this lady is singing?
She's got a lot of great songs over the years. She's been around forever.
A million hits. Yeah.
I mean, she can go back to the Destiny's Child day.
There was a rumor too that she was going to be doing the Sphere thing.
I mean, I hope it happens because like all the artists they've had so far have been older artists, rock bands, you know. And I think getting a younger demographic there would be really cool. A couple other quick hitters. Let's see, from Dave. My question isn't about basketball. I teach high school, and I think a big part of my job is to help kids see a path to becoming happy, contributing members of society. You both seem to have achieved that. You know, agree or disagree. But Dave asks, what advice do you have for young people that might help them become the best versions of themselves that they can be?
It's interesting because I was just talking about like this online community and whatever else. I do think we have gotten far away from treat people how you want to be treated.
It's very simple, but I think that's a good one. The principal at my elementary school used to have like a poster inside, like you could see it when you walked in the front doors that had that written, and that's always stuck with me. It's simple but true.
Yeah, and I do think that. And I also think that...
With that said, treat people the way you want to be treated. That is exactly how I want to be treated when I play online video games. So
it is?
So that's how I'll treat you.
You know, and
But yeah, no. Okay, all right, back to seriousness.
I haven't really thought of... You know, it's a very heavy question.
It is.
It's something that, you know, I ponder a lot as a father. My son starts high school tomorrow. Literally tomorrow.
Oh,
that's how long we've been together.
Wow.
You remember when he's a little kid.
Oh, my God.
Laying on a bed behind me while I was recording the pod.
I didn't even realize he started tomorrow with this question. So you must be feeling really deeper in your emotions with that.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
It's just a weird, it's a weird deal. And I think one of the things that I have been very aware of my life as a parent is my kids, and I say this to them a lot, you've never seen me treat somebody poorly. Never. I don't think my kids have ever seen me treat somebody poorly. Have they seen me get upset about a situation? Sure. But I have always been of the opinion that even if there is somebody that I do think that once upon a time that there's good in everybody. It clearly goes sideways for a lot of people at some point in life. But I do always attempt to see the good in people. And I think that that is the easiest way to have a healthy and productive life is to go into things assuming the good. I feel like so many times now people assume the worst of situations and assume the worst of people. And they have passed that judgment before a situation might even play out. But I've been very aware of how I treat people, not only, in my own house, but obviously out in public or whatever. And I don't think I'm not trying to be, pompous here. I don't think they've ever seen me be mean to somebody.
Yeah, because you're treating strangers with kindness. That's the way my dad was. My dad was nice to
I don't
servers.
Believe in it. I don't believe in being mean to people.
He was nice to the people behind the cash register. Yeah. He was always nice to everybody and asked how their day was and just kind. Yeah.
And I don't think you understand how far you can get just by being nice.
I agree. I think that's a very good one.
I'm not super smart, not extraordinarily talented, but I am nice to people.
Yeah,
I am. And I do think that there's a lot of pricks in media too.
Oh, there are.
There's
for sure.
No question. I feel like in some ways I've been able to have the success I've had in part because I've been nice to people, whether that is listeners, caring about an audience, caring about people, caring about, and that's not, it's not something that's taken extraordinarily effort. I'm very lucky. My mom was actually over at my house tonight. My mom is 75 years old. I've never seen my mom be mean to anybody. So I come by that
from
honest.
Her. That's like me with my dad. I get it.
I just I've never seen her like act like a Karen, or I've never in my whole life, 75 years, I've never seen her be mean to someone ever.
Yeah,
never. So I just don't like. I mean,
and I think, like, to get back to Dave's original question, like that's how it helps you become the best version of yourself, is by treating others.
That's right.
Nicely.
You'll get it back tenfold.
You get it back, and you also just naturally train yourself to become a kinder, nicer, more forgiving, more loving person in every single regard. And I think related to that is kind of just, especially for someone your son's age, learning to love yourself. Like, there will be people in high school that think he's weird or make fun of him, or he'll get denied at certain points in life. Everybody does when they're going through it, teenager in college or whatever it is. And it's learning to love yourself through that, not in a way that it's like inflated ego where you think you're perfect, in a way that I am who I am, and I'm working at myself to become the best version of myself that I can be. And I know that takes time. It's like an athlete. You're a rookie. You're not going to be what you are in year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10. You're just taking the steps that you can to get to that point and building compound interest over time. So I think it's having patience with yourself and knowing who you are and appreciating who you are, while also treating others with respect. And that in turn gets back to you. And I think the other thing is, surrounding yourself with people of that similar energy. Right. I do think there's something to that as well.
And by the way, what was the guy's name? Thank you for being a teacher.
Dave.
You are intensely the most underappreciated people on planet Earth.
I agree.
Truly.
I agree. Thank you,
And you
Dave.
have a profound impact on these kids.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. And your example has a profound impact on them.
Absolutely does. That. It's one of the best, most important jobs in the world.
You're actually like doing something important. We're just talking about friggin' Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, you're the real contributing member to society.
We're just talking about Rudy Gobert, trying to be nice to people.
Yeah. Well, we get a bunch of other good questions as well. Again, these are going to last the summer, Chris. We get a whole bunch and more.
Dig it. All right. Yeah. Hey, if you want to send any more in, NBA mailbag at gmail.com. We'll try to hit some every episode during the summer. Obviously, we'll be talking about my team USA and Kevin's French team next episode. And we'll try to get some mailbag questions in then. Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, as always. And Kevin, I'll talk to you on Thursday.
I'm looking forward to it.